I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values, our feelings, or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Saturday night, another live stream here again. Hopefully you guys are doing okay. I did want to show, I've got my Fan Man is working on merch for his channel, and he's done a Second Cup Cafe t-shirt. I don't think he's actually made it available yet, but I swiped in and bought this when he was just like playing with the design. So that's coming. But yeah, go check out Fan Man's channel, Second Cup Cafe. Give him a subscribe. He deserves it. He didn't have one today. He was camping with his family. But pretty cool shirt. I like it. Did a good job with that. Hopefully everybody's doing okay. Let's see who we got here in the chat. Quite a few people. We got Ghost Planet Max 1.0 was here first. Congratulations to you there. And of course, my dear sweet sound engraver with us. Tricon 40. Haven't seen you in a while, have I? How have you been around? But good to see you there. Big Al, incessant sunshiny face himself. I'll be talking about Big Al in a little bit. In a good way. In a good way. I'm sure Al's doing one of his rewatches soon. I don't know whose channel they're on though tonight. But Slav, welcome. Final Fantasy fan. Brian Gilmartin. Leah Plus Size, great to see you. Usual crew in here and so many more. Sound Engraver. Oh, super chat from Sound Engraver. $2. I couldn't tip 4th Age today without tipping my prof. That's right. Although you can always tip me with kisses though, but only you. It got really weird when Al tried that last time. So let's see who else we've got here. Oh, quite a few people. Nice crew for a Saturday evening. Thank you. Was that Unicorn Kaz? I just realized I left my glasses all the way across the room. All right, I think I'll be able to do this without glasses. We'll see. If I need them though, I'll pause. I don't know how long I'll stream tonight. You know, these streams are never very long. Slav says Prof about to talk for 20 minutes again. That's pretty much true. Yeah, I just don't stream long. Occasionally I might go over an hour. But I don't have the streaming stamina. You know, when I used to do the office hours, first of all, it helped because Big Al was there. So we were bouncing off of each other and stuff like that. But even then, I'd get off those streams, whether it was just Al and I, or we had some other people or whatever, and I was just wiped the rest of the night. I just couldn't do it. Because I am such a, Sound Engraver will tell you, I am such an introvert. I mean, I am to the max. Like a lot of people say they're introverts. I am crazy introverted, and it wears me out, you know, doing social stuff or being on like this. Now I don't mind doing this. I enjoy it. You know, I do teach for a living, so I have no problem with public speaking or anything like that. But it's draining, especially draining when I'm like mingling with people and whatnot, or you know, joining in with the chat and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, we'll see how far I can go. Dr. Weiss says your glasses help hide the recession. How do glasses do anything for my forehead? glasses stop like here. It's like a distraction or something. I don't know. You know what? Me and Peter Venkman couldn't care less. I've got Peter Venkman hair. I'm just fine with that. So yeah, we'll go as long as we can. I would love to too. I'm just kind of letting people get in here before I start the topic. But I would love to. I've talked about it before. If I had the energy, I would start up a new channel talking specifically about music. I don't have that energy, so I'll probably just do occasional videos more on the music. But I love those videos that I get to do talking about my favorite albums, and whatnot. But obviously they get hardly any attention, which makes sense because I didn't build the audience of this channel for music. I built it for talking about my scholarship and heroism and whatnot. So it makes perfect sense. But sometimes it's I love talking about hero stories, and I geek out about that quite a bit. But I'm not always interested in talking about the new stuff, and I don't really have a lot of outlets to talk about a lot of the bands that I love or still listen to and whatnot. So I don't know, maybe some of these streams might devolve into that kind of talk for a bit at some point. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with the content, and we'll see how much I end up having to say about this and how far we go. But I am talking about the insecurity of fandom, and this insecurity that I see a lot with fans of particular movies spaced just so. And there's a whole phenomenon I'm seeing, surrounding it. But I want to be clear first and just stress that I'm not saying that anybody who likes these movies or these shows are insecure. Oh, they're just insecure and they're just looking for a sense of belonging, and that's why they like those movies or whatnot. That would be a straw man. And that's not what I'm saying. That's what these people are saying about anybody that dares criticize their movies. Absolutely straw manning. And I'll go into that in a second. But there are a lot of people who just can't handle criticism of some of these movies in particular. And I'll define what they are, in a bit. And I just don't understand it. There are people out there who like the Mario movie, who like the Joker movie, who like, I don't know, whatever, The Mandalorian, Spider-Man No Way Home or whatever. And they couldn't give a rat's behind what anybody says about it. They liked it, and that's fine. And that's fine. Those are not the people I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who just lose their mind, and they just go around wringing their hands, and they can't handle that people are criticizing a movie they like. And they do end up straw manning. How many times have you heard stuff? Just most recently for the Mario movie, people are trying to criticize this movie that they don't understand. They're just trying to play into this whole woke versus anti-woke narrative, but they're not real Nintendo fans, or they're not really, they're just trying to push it into a different thing. They can't accept the fact that an intelligent individual might have a problem with their precious film. And it's absurd to me, that kind of mentality. I don't understand that. It's nothing new. We've seen it for films of different, even films that tend to have support on different sides of the ideological spectrum. I first encountered it with the Snyder Bros. The Snyder Bros couldn't abide anybody daring say that those movies weren't good portrayals of these superheroes. And again, of course, I'm sure you had plenty of people who just enjoyed it and didn't care what people said. You've got those, but I'm saying that the throngs that we saw on social media just daring, trolling anybody who would dare, to dissent among those films. We do see it a lot with films supported to support an ideology. I put on the thumbnail there the clip from the Marvels movie upcoming, because World Class Bullshitters did a great video. I think it was this morning or last night, and they were covering one of the articles that are already out there, right? The movie hasn't even been released yet, but you knew this was coming. It's old news. This is the MO of anybody, who they're so insecure that people need to like this movie. So if anybody doesn't like this movie, if anybody didn't like that trailer, they're sexist. They're automatically sexist. And this is what happened. They always do this, and they don't give the movies a chance. They're just sexist, fanboys, whatever. That's a straw man, right? And that's an insecurity It's an insecure way of responding to critique about something you love, when you can't bring yourself to actually argue any of the points people have. So you just want to say, oh, it's just this. This is why they said that. This is why they did that. And that's nothing new, again, with those kinds of movies. I remember when I think the Ghostbusters 2016 film, either it was just coming out or it had been out, for a week or so. And we saw articles everywhere, right? I mean, saying, not only trying to insult anybody who dared criticize the film or the way it was handled, but also trying to call, put forth the call and get everybody to come and support that movie. And as you see a lot of feminist articles saying, come on, women, you've got to go support this movie. We need to make sure these numbers are up. We need to show those evil men that blah, blah, blah. We have to go make this movie a success. Desperate, calling for that. If a movie's good, then people will like it. I mean, you couldn't say with Ghostbusters that it was an issue of, it didn't get marketed very well, right? I mean, sometimes that happens. Like, I liked Disney's John Carter movie quite a bit. And one of the reasons it didn't do well, I mean, some people had valid problems with it or whatever, but one of the reasons it didn't do well is because Disney just dropped the ball hard on the marketing. But that's not the instances I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who just are so insecure about these films, they need to get the message out. Now, you can kind of understand that. Let's go back to the Snyder Bros example. Even though Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, made a certain amount of money, made nowhere near the money a Batman Superman movie should have, and we know that they were, the whole cinematic universe fell drastically short of what those kinds of movies should have made. We know that. But they made money, all right? They were successful. They were being greenlit for sequels, but they were highly controversial from the very beginning. It wasn't even clear when Man of Steel first hit if that was even going to get a sequel, right? And then when Batman v Superman was happening, there was just opposition, as it should be, against Snyder every step of the way. And then when the Snyder Batman v Superman came out, so much opposition against it that had Warner Brothers not bullheadedly and ridiculously and ignorantly gone ahead and already greenlit a Justice League movie, that wouldn't have even happened, So if you were a Snyder fan and you saw all of that opposition coming to your films there, it makes a little bit of sense. I mean, I still think it's ridiculous bullying and trolling, but it makes a little bit of sense that you would try to get the voice out there. Like, no, stop it. We do like this movie. We do want more. And you'd be insecure for a real reason, right? The insecurity would be because there's a real chance that those movies the plug could get pulled on those movies, What I really don't understand, though, is instances like right now with the Mario movie. That movie was wildly successful at the box office. That movie, they've already announced the cinematic universe they're going to be doing or whatever. I mean, there's just no chance that plug's going to get pulled on those films anytime soon. And yet you still got these people who just can't handle that me and other YouTubers are out here talking about the problems and why this isn't a good film and it's not good for society. And it is a woke, little step by step by step, they just can't handle this. They lose their minds, whether really getting, visibly angry and upset, or you just see them obsess over it. It's a bizarre phenomenon. It's nothing new. Like I said, I've seen it myself with, as the Snyder Bros there, I saw it. Was there anything in between that and, the Joker movie? I'm famous for disliking the Joker movie. I don't think that's a good thing for society. I don't think it's the right take on the Joker. The movie itself doesn't even sound all that great. I'm very much against the Joker movie. And it was just like basically me and maybe one other person in the universe somewhere that felt that way. Me and Fan Man, at least. I mean, we were still are very much just sort of lone voices crying in the wilderness about that film. We're not going to affect anything, right? We're speaking our truth and speaking the truth about that movie. I don't care what the hubbub is about it. It's not a good take on the character and whatnot. But I just don't understand why people care that I speak out against that film. Like, that's another example. That movie, very successful. They're doing their stupid sequel now, whatever. I mean, like, nothing I can say about that film is going to change anything. But you had people, oh my gosh, they were making videos about my channel and how I'm saying that's bad stuff against it. I would see social media posts about, oh my gosh. I still to this day see people kind of like snarky grumbling, Professor Geek saying people shouldn't watch the Joker movie. It's like, what is your damage? Did somebody hurt you or something, and you're projecting this onto the Joker film? I just don't understand this insecurity that nobody can say anything bad about the thing I like. I don't understand that at all, and it only happens in certain films every so often that come about. And I think I would posit that it's happening because deep down, I think at least these fans who are very insecure, and I'm not talking about any people who just like the movie, whatever. I don't care what anybody thinks. I like the movie. I'm not talking about them, okay? And there are those who like the Joker movie, the Mario movie, the Mandalorian garbage, where Bo-Katan is the new Mandalorian now, which I said from the beginning they were going to pull some crap like that eventually. Some people just like it and whatever. But the people who are insecure about it, I think deep down they know that something's not right here. Something's amiss in this portrayal, whatever the film is, but they're desperately trying to turn a blind eye to it. And the more people that call out the issues with it are making it harder for them to turn a blind eye to the issues. And they don't like that. So they're trying to pitch a hissy fit and try to shut everybody up, or try to fight the good fight to make sure that people hear more of their side than the other side, and all this stuff. And that's a weird aspect to it too. I remember when The Mandalorian first came out, I mean, I straight up lost friends for not supporting this TV show. I had people, as I've said before on my channel, tell me, look, we need this right now. Why are you criticizing? Why are you listening to me criticize it if it's such a problem for you? It's a little X, click, and I go away. I mean, what is this obsession with what I do on my own channel? And it's because people might listen to me. I didn't have this kind of kickback when it was just like a little 500 subscriber channel. And I'm hardly anything even remotely big of a channel, but 16,000 subs, that's something. It's nothing that makes you big, but that's something. It gives you an audience. It makes people talk about your opinions when they listen, and you do have a good, steady flow of listeners. So that's that's part of it. I'll talk about this more in a second, but I do want to catch this super chat before it goes away. This is kind of an off-topic super chat, so I'll read it, and thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate it, but I'll probably have to come back to this at the end. Why does the USA look down on animation as a serious adult art form like Japan does? I think you mean Japan treats it as a serious adult art form. Why are myths and legends from around the world ignored by Disney? That's an interesting topic, and I will talk about that at the end here. That's an interesting topic, yeah. But thank you very much for the super chat. I'll come around to that. But the insecurity has to do with people, like I said, they're trying to turn a blind eye to it. In a lot of cases, they want the community, as I've said. They're not really so much a fan of this show or this movie. They need the community, the current community, the hashtag. I got this kind of kickback. Sometimes this kind of kickback happens, and it happens really strong in the moment, in the cultural moment that this movie or TV show is released, when everybody's just sort of like hell-bent on celebrating it. And if you dare criticize, they'll go at you hard. But then like 2 or 3 weeks, certainly a year later, no one even cares about that movie or TV show anymore. This happened with me in the Bill and Ted movie. That Bill and Ted movie was garbage. That was garbage. That was the whole take on it. It was from the ground up. They were catering to the whole woke thing. They were not at all honoring anything that came before. But you had people just, no, the narrative is that this is a good movie. Get on board, prof. They couldn't handle it. I don't get quite as much kickback on the Joker movie now as I did. But oh my gosh, like I said, people would burn me in effigy practically. I remember I did a video, and I had the thumbnail was a picture of Cruella, because Cruella came out around the same time as Joker. They were, some similar time periods there. And I had a picture of Cruella and the Joker movie. And my point in the video was, hey, let's get away from this stupid idea of we need to make movies about the villains. Let's make the villains our main characters. Let's explore the villains, That's not every villain suitable to that. And it's a bad thing to start, moving towards as a cultural movement anyway, in terms of storytelling. You had people that just lost their little minds. Stop putting the Joker on thumbnails with bad movies. It's a good movie. I mean, they just couldn't handle it. Don't watch the video then. I don't understand. I don't understand. Thomas Payne, another $2 super chat. Thank you there, sir. Said fandom is tribalism, especially now. Thoughts? That's absolutely true. You are absolutely, Fan Man calls it fanatics, meaning that, fan addicts, breaking down the word. They're addicted to something about that they get from new content coming. And I think you using the word tribalism is a good one there, because it's, they need to, like, I had comments when I would say problems with the Joker movie and the approach of the movie and how this isn't a good thing for the character or whatever. I actually had comments that said, yeah, but I mean, I'm kind of torn though, because, the woke people really don't like it. So I feel like I kind of have to support it. Well, that right there is tribalism, basic run-of-the-mill tribalism. I am so anti-woke that I have to be for anything that the woke don't like, Okay, well, how do you feel about art and the actual story? And as an independent thinker, is the movie good for society or whatnot? Same thing with Spider-Man No Way Home. How many people did I hear from, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I gotta support Toby, gotta support. And how many people right now are saying, well, I'm only going to see The Flash to see Michael Keaton as Batman again. It's tribalism. I've got to support my thing here because this is what I identify with. Whether it's, a handful of channels that seem to, this is the narrative they're putting out. I remember it was laughable, quite laughable, really, when the Snyder Cut came out, and suddenly your woke versus anti-woke channels would chime in, and the Snyder Cut's good for the fans, and, all this kind of stuff. And not very few people bought that argument. I think a lot of people ended up with egg on their face for even trying to turn that into the narrative. But it was silly. I got some super chats pouring in here. Don't want to forget them. Andre Hernandez, thank you very much for $5. Says thoughts on the Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams, Green Lantern, Green Arrow run. Do you think the politics were handled well or poorly? I'd have to go back and reread the run in its entirety to give you a very recent and comprehensive answer to that question. But I remember really enjoying it when I liked it back in the day. I think that some of the rules we would judge the handling of politics by today didn't really apply back then because they weren't going crazy with it. So it wasn't such a sensitive issue, So I liked it when I read it before, but I have to read it again fresh to give you a really good answer on that. Eldritch fan says, when does Hans Gruber from Die Hard get a show? Exactly. Yeah, everybody, all the villains, there was that movement. Are they still doing that? I don't know. I know that even in like the live action remakes of Disney, they're trying to make the villains, flesh them out. I think they were doing some stupid thing to Ursula, in the supposed Little Mermaid live action or whatever. So they keep trying that, even if the movie's not totally focused on the villain. Daniel Heron. Professor quotes Fan Man the Wise. I don't think I have ever known somebody who idolizes and is as big a fan of a YouTuber as Daniel Heron is of Fan Man. I don't even think Sound Engraver is as big a fan of my channel as Daniel Heron is of Fan Man's channel. So you'll meet him. You'll meet him soon at the wedding, right? There's another super chat here. Eldritch fan, Hans just needed the money for his transition. That's what it would be, right? They're one of those ideologies in there. So, where was I? I don't want to get back on this I mean, I don't really have a conclusion to make other than I think that it is people who somewhere deep down, they know there's a problem with it. Like I said, they're trying to turn a blind eye, and people criticizing it won't let them. They won't let them turn the blind eye. It's harder to ignore something if people are calling it out, and you're trying to say, nope, that's not the case. That's not the case. That's not the case. It's harder to ignore that. And you talk about tribalism too, just the idea of people who won't like I've had people get huffy and unsubscribe and stop listening to my channel, which I would never know if they didn't make a point to tell me all about it, but then later they've come back and said, okay, you're kind of right. Like I remember talking about, when between the Mandalorian and just everything from the Filoni verse and Favreau and everything, that was the answer. That's the way, I had people who just got so put out with me and couldn't handle listening to me at all for my critiques of Filoni, whether it be Rebels or whatever. And then people come back later and say, yeah, okay, you know what? You're kind of right. I see they are making Ahsoka into everything, and Star Wars is now the Ahsoka Tano story or whatever. And that's happened. It even happened with the Joker as well. And that kind of tribalism is silly. I mean, Big Al, I said I'd mention Big Al, and I'll do this now. Big Al he's best friend. Like he and Fan Man are best friends to the point of like brothers. Okay. And as any brother relationship, you love each other, but you also get annoyed at each other from time to time. And I can't tell you how many times I just want to beat Big Al's stupid little sunshine emoji face in every time he's like, oh, I just see the good in everything. And I'm sure he gets annoyed with me. I mean, he tells me, you're so negative. I'm so glad I'm not like you. This and that. Yet it would never even remotely occur to Al to not hang out with me or not be my friend because we disagree on a show, right? Like that's a whole other level of like something's wrong with it. Now, I will say though, I've never really had somebody say, put it in like the situation hasn't arisen in that they say, hey, you either support this show or I'm not going to be your friend. No, but they make it so impossible to be around them that they in essence end the friendship, right? I mean, if someone is going to do nothing but frankly start hurling insults at you once they talk or whenever you dare vent your own opinion about something on your own channel, the friendship has to be over at that point. You can't just keep dealing with that, and it comes from an insecurity, like I said, whether they're trying to turn a blind eye to these problems, whether because they want the tribalism community thing, or maybe they saw something good that in a movie or a show that for them personally outweighs the critiques of it. Well, that's valid. That's your own opinion. That's valid, but that still shouldn't mean that you can't handle people who don't see that your way. People who say, yeah, no, what you saw in there, that doesn't work for me. I still have problems with it. I just don't understand that insecurity. Thomas Payne for another $5. Thank you very much, sir. So could it be that people in general don't do well with criticism, especially when it's sacred to them? Example, criticism of religion, taboos, and politics. Yeah, it doesn't, there are people who just can't handle criticism, period. And that's a weird thing too, because that, I say insecurity, it has to do with how secure they are about themselves, about their identity, about their own taste and what they like and whatnot. And that's a deeper issue than whether or not people are on board with them on this movie or TV show or not, right? That's a whole other issue. That's like they've got some psychological work to do on that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, nobody likes hearing their side misrepresented or hearing nothing but a bunch of critiques about your side, but you don't lash out like a toddler about it. Like I remember when let me get the super chat and then I'll talk about it here. Xerax. Is it Xerax? Is that how you pronounce that? Xerax. I ran into something similar discussing Mass Effect 2. I said it's better as an expansion and leaves a lot of potential on the floor for no reason. That's cool. I haven't gotten to Mass Effect 2 yet. I'm still kind of getting through Mass Effect 1. But I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, I have heard that there are some critiques or discussions about it and whatnot. But I am noticing my video being a little blurry too. I just realized that I've neglected. I got a whole new Wi-Fi line and everything in here just to fix streaming, but my computer is actually auto set to the other one that gives me problems. So as long as you guys are hearing me fine, the video might get a little fuzzy there at times. That's my bad. I forgot to switch it over before we started. So the insecurity thing, I had somewhere I was going with that. Somewhere I was going with that. I can't remember. We can do this out. Mike says, I know it won't change your mind on it, but I see the Super Mario movie as a stepping stone for better Nintendo adaptations, but I see where you're coming from. Now, I've heard that argument before, and that's a I understand how that argument is built because I have seen it a lot. And yeah, thank you very much for the super chat too, by the way. I have seen it a lot with other movies too, you know. And sometimes, I'm not saying you're saying this, but sometimes that argument will include things like, look, they couldn't give us everything we wanted. And they knew that in today's climate, and they're working. Like you hear this a lot about The Mandalorian. Look, Filoni and Favreau, they're kind of having to play the game right now. Okay. So that's why they had to do this. And everything bad in the show is from Kathleen Kennedy higher up, and everything good in the show is from them because they're working behind the scenes trying for, and that these arguments never, ever hold water. No, you didn't go that far with the Super Mario one. I'm just kind of saying sometimes where that argument comes from. But the whole stepping stone argument, I think, is the reason I don't buy into it myself is because I've never seen it work. If the stepping stone argument worked, then we could point to certain films or certain television shows that did get a little bit better. And then the next iteration got a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. But I have yet to see any evidence of that. I see a lot of people pointing to new things that they want to kind of give passes to certain things on and say this is kind of a stepping stone issue, but it never pans out to where it's actually getting better. And I think the reason for that is, like I've said, the ideologies in Hollywood right now are so invasive, and it's like a cancer. There's no just getting rid of the CEO and putting this person in. There's no just getting that director out and putting this director on it. It's so invasive. It's going to take decades worth of, metaphorical chemo on the industry to weed out these tendrils. It very much is like Hydra, in Captain America Winter Soldier, how Hydra has spent decades just weaving its tentacles into S.H.I.E.L.D. And there was no cutting Hydra out of S.H.I.E.L.D. without just ending S.H.I.E.L.D., and then rebuild it later. And that's a good analogy for what I think is up with Hollywood. Hang on, there's a spider. Sound Engraver will never come over here again if I don't kill it. Ugh. That was a big one too. It's the season for wolf spiders. Probably shouldn't have said that. Now she's not going to come over again. See you in the chat. Kill it. It's dead. It's dead. And the carcass shall be removed before you come over. Spidey rules. No, don't kill the spider. I don't kill spiders unless they're in my house. I don't kill spiders. They can be right outside of my door threshold. I don't care. Stay there. But and wolf spiders aren't aggressive. They're not poisonous and they're not aggressive, but it's too easy for my daughter to sit down. They will bite if they're threatened, and my daughter doesn't understand things about spiders, and I don't want her being bitten. So I will kill anything like that in my apartment. Sound Engraver doesn't. She wants to kill them all. If they're outside, kill them. Decrease the surplus population. I saw a little Facebook short once. I showed Sound Engraver too. There's a guy, there was a question going around, I guess, that was saying, would you rather be able to speak any language or to talk to animals? And he was like, are you kidding me? Speak any language. Could you imagine how horrible that would be talking to animals? And then it cut to this little scenario where I guess his girlfriend or wife's behind him, and he's got a newspaper to a spider, and the spider's like, please, man, you don't have to do this. I got a family. And he's like, he said he won't hurt you. And the woman's like, oh, how do you know that? Can you talk to spiders? And he's like, well, about that. It was pretty funny. That was a tangent, but yeah, I think we're kind of off the topic. I mean, I'm happy to keep talking about it, but I don't like, it's so obvious to me when people are this insecure about people criticizing a movie. It's obvious to me where this is coming from, but it's not just like one person. Like there's no, like I don't have anybody in mind about this. This is something that happens every so often, and I think it's because people get tired of holding the line and having standards. And like I said, with my first reaction to the Mario movie, that it gets to a point about now in which they'll give you a certain amount, certain pretty visuals, at least the character's a hero, at least, where people are just like, yeah, this movie's good. Yeah, we know what we're going to like this movie because we can't be negative about everything, which is straw manning any just basic discernment is negativity. So that, it comes along every so often, but so many people are involved in it that I just, I don't know, maybe it's just that online there's a different, you're exposed to all different types of people that you wouldn't necessarily be exposed to in real life, because you guys all know this. You've all had this experience yourself online, on YouTube, even just in comments and whatnot. If you're at a party or something like that, or an event or whatever, certain people that you just don't want to spend time around. There are certain people that are just going to be cantankerous, or they just have very different values and worldviews than you, so you just don't have anything in common with them. And it's not like you hate anybody. You're choosy about who you want to spend your time with, which is perfectly valid. It's not an insult to anybody. And you can do that in real life. But when you're on something like a comment forum or something like a YouTube channel or Twitter or something like that, there's no keeping those socially awkward, belligerent, no social skills people away from you at that point. That's why I don't know how anybody could even pay attention to Twitter anymore, because Twitter's like, every Twitter post ever is somebody saying, I believe a thing. And then a bunch of people saying, you're stupid for believing that thing. It's just like, does anybody get anything out of this? It's ridiculous. It's silly. But that's the thing with the internet, is you see that kind of, those types of people kind of rise to the top in prominence where they probably wouldn't in at least your own perception of life elsewhere. So maybe that's just where I'm seeing it. It's just so weird. I'll never understand like why people are so concerned about what I support or criticize on my channel. I mean, I'm not Ethan Van Sciver. I don't have that kind of following or that kind of influence. But if you have any kind of influence, if you influence anybody, if anybody agrees with you, I've seen people come on my channel who are mad if they'll see comments saying, yeah, you know what? I kind of see what you're saying. They're like, don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. Again, that insecurity. I don't know. Got another super chat here. Thank you very much from, sorry, the comments jumped there. Ed Star. I don't think I've missed any super chats. You guys let me know if I missed any here, because I don't want to miss any of them. But Ed Star says, I defend my point of view by saying it's only a movie, and that's when I get in trouble. When you say it's only a movie, you get in trouble. I mean, the it's only a movie thing definitely is, I don't know how you mean that, right? Because on one hand, yeah, like for Al and I, Mandalorian's just a TV show. Why would we ever let that come between us, friendship, right? So you're absolutely right on that. Say, I have heard other people say though, why do people care about it at all? It's just like, why is it so what? You didn't like it, big deal. Why are you even talking about it? Which is kind of funny because people who so I do totally get what you're saying, and I appreciate the super chat. I'm just kind of going off on a different tangent of it now, or a different aspect. But when you hear that too, some people say, why are you spending so much time criticizing this? That's kind of weird, Prof. It's just a movie. The fact that they need to take the time to say that means it's not just a movie to them, right? It's they're trying to shame you into stop talking about it or something like that. But yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying, Ed Star. I appreciate that. Andre Fernandez says again, do you consider Optimus Prime, Sonic, Mario, Leonardo, Aragorn, Barry Allen, and Wally West as aspirational heroes? While some people compare Deku to Spider-Man, don't you think Deku is similar to Wally West Flash? Well, that's an interesting comment. Let me think about this here. I don't. All right. So yes, on Optimus Prime, I haven't really read or are not really familiar with Sonic's story enough outside of the first two games to really judge whether he's aspirational or not. So maybe he is. I never really read the comics, didn't really watch the shows. Maybe he totally is, but I really couldn't say that. Yes to Leonardo from TMNT. Absolutely. Leonardo's aspirational. Aragorn, aspirational, especially in the books. Barry Allen is aspirational, yes. Wally West, is he aspirational? I don't know. I I mean, he's a trickster, but is he aspirational or cathartic motivational? I'd have to go back and really kind of pour over his story arc. I didn't, Fan Man would be somebody to ask about that because he loved Wally West and he knows everything about the character. I I followed Wally West's transition from Kid Flash to Flash. I thought that was a really cool story, but I've never really been somebody who followed his story completely from the comics. I did love when they brought him back in Rebirth, and I thought that was great. And I guess everything I've seen, he's been pretty aspirational. But I don't know enough of him to really state one way or the other. Now, when you say Deku as Wally West, that's a little, I never thought about that. I guess you're saying that because like Wally West being Kid Flash, wanting to replace his mentor and be the Flash. I think, so you could look at Deku wanting to be the new All Might, in a lot of ways. Yeah, I see that. I really don't understand people comparing Deku to Spider-Man, though. Deku's nothing like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's cathartic motivational. Deku is 100% aspirational. I don't understand why people would make that comparison at all, other than that they're just two young superheroes, That's kind of a weird one. But good question. That got me thinking. I appreciate that. Before I forget, I should probably go back and address that comment, the first one of the first super chats, second super chat or whatever that came from Brian asking about, why does Disney refuse to do good adult animation or something like that, like Japan does. At first, I think once upon a time, that just was never on Disney's MO. That was never on Disney's plate. They were a family friendly, which means it has to be child friendly company. That's what they did, whether live action movies or, that was Walt Disney's thing. He wanted to do children friendly entertainment that adults also could enjoy. So you'd never see Walt Disney. It wasn't on his mission statement, to do anything like, an adult animated film. Adult, like, an anime or something, not like, adult porn or something like that. But so that was just never on his radar there. Today, they're not doing it. I don't think they care necessarily. Well, they don't care anything about Walt Disney's mission statement or whatever. Disney's 100% a different company. It's no longer the wonderful bastion of cultural folklore. It's no longer the wonderful magical place it once was. It's a cesspool. It's a cesspool that's really quite the opposite of anything good it ever was. And the reason I think now that they won't bother giving us any, or they would never turn their head to like adult animation, is because too many ideologues are in Disney and they want to change the way people think. And they know that the way to do that is to get into children's heads. So they will never for a second release their energy from trying to program children, whether it's those stupid, absurd, they should be. I can't even imagine it infuriates me that the stupid, let's have drag queens doing little PSAs for children on Disney. That's not okay. That's not normal. That's a fetish. And hey, that's fine. If that's your thing, if you like to dress up as a woman, that's your decision and no one can tell you not to. But don't you dare bring that crap around a child. You're doing that as a fetish. Stop trying to normalize it and pretend it's anything else. It's a fetish. And fetishes have no place around children. And Disney's like, I think that's a good idea. Disney's evil. I've said this for a while. Disney they're so far beyond just kind of falling away from their goal they used to be. They're straight up evil now. And I don't care if it's Bob Iger or who else running it. They are an evil company. And they are trying to perpetrate evil on the culture. They are trying to change it. And they know that they need to change and sink their claws into children's minds if they want it to because then you and I can die off. Us stubborn people who won't get on board with saying the sky is red and the grass is yellow, or all the kind of silly stuff that they want to recreate reality with. We won't get on board with that. Well, they're like, that's fine, you'll die off. We need to get to your children though, and that's what they're trying to do. It's so sorry, that became a little anti-Disney tangent, but what a horrible company. I mean, nothing would be better for this world than for Disney just to go bankrupt. I don't care if we never get another Disney property in the world. It's just a flat out evil company at this point. And there's no easy fix. There's no, well, maybe when so-and-so comes into no. Disney's the enemy. I mean, they would have to be so overhauled for such a long period of time, stripped down to just the bare minimum of everything. It would be an insane, what's the word? Operation, procedure, phenomena that would have to happen to them to make anything good come out of that company again. It's nothing like it was. And it grieves me to say that, because I say this as somebody who adored Disney, not just growing up as a child, but for most of my adult life too. I recognize that that they were doing particularly distinctive American forms of mythological folklore and exporting it to the world, which is fine. And not to say that everything they did was great by any means, hits and misses and whatnot, but they were what they were, and they were concerned with magic and the fairy tale, and that was the mythology that they were putting out there, and it was brilliant. It was necessary, and people responded well to it, and it had a great effect on culture. Not anymore. Thank you to Matthew Flynn, the gladiator of Kaun, insecurity, and probably a little bit of some kind of disability. Oh, you mean like people like being socially awkward or whatnot? Quite probably. I mean, I'm always hesitant to actually, accuse any person of that, this or that. But there is even, I don't know if you call it disability, but there is just a general social awkwardness, I think, to generations today. And I don't even think it has to do with anything being anything more than neurotypical, but it just has to be with our culture. Our culture doesn't, because it's so isolated and online, and the pandemic has a lot to do with that too. It keeps people from developing social skills even more and for even longer, for no good reason whatsoever. And now we've got to the point where, people are finding it very difficult, and young people are going to find it very difficult in life to do just basic things, have relationships, get along, be somebody that people want to spend time with and whatnot. Yeah, it's a good point. Slav for $5, thank you very much, says, I don't have much to say on your current topic, but I don't agree with you always, but I support you and your stuff here. Here's funds for your wedding. I appreciate that, Slav. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm under no delusions that everybody on my channel agrees with me. I think that's silly, right? I know a bunch of you think I'm full of it sometimes, and that's okay, because you don't let that eat you up inside. You'll still come back to hear the things I like. Or maybe sometimes you're like, I need a break from Prof. I just need a break from that right now. Whatever, that's fine. But you don't go crazy in the comments or everywhere else going, I can't believe it, he's saying this, and I don't want him to say that. Why is he saying that? It's just really weird. Thomas Payne. It was Thomas. I'm sorry. I think I called you Brian a second ago. Thank you for the super chat there. It says, that was the question I was just answering. Why are myths and legends from around the world ignored by That's the second part of the question, I guess, which maybe I didn't answer. Why are myths and legends ignored by Disney? Again, I think I'd have to answer that two answers. One answer for back in the day, the way Disney was. Disney wasn't Disney's mission statement. It wasn't Walt Disney's mission statement to make sure that we represent the worldwide, mythological net or whatever, make sure that we get myths from this country and from that country and make sure we got all that representation. He wasn't worried about that. He was just out to find good stories that would make good Disney movies. He was looking for good stories, whether that was, a classic fairy tale or something like a Mary Poppins children's book or whatever. He was just looking for good stories that he think would fit that his style of American mythological brand that he wanted to put out there. So I think that's why there. Now today, I think that is much for the answer is for today. The reason why Disney won't, they ignore a lot of legends and fairy tales from other, because you're right. Like, what are you people doing with the live action remakes? They're not good. They're horrible. No one wants a Lilo and Stitch live action. No one wants any of these. No one wants a lot of the live actions you've already done. But whenever they do get success with them, it excites the ideologues working at Disney, because then they realize, hey, people really watch that Beauty and the Beast, and people are saying that they'd rather watch that than even the old animation. That just gives them all kinds of jollies, because that's what they want. They want to replace the stuff that came before. And they see making live action movies as ways to replace the animated classics from culture, from the cultural memory. And you have, and it worked. People were dumb enough to let this work with Beauty and the Beast. You had a lot of parents saying, "Oh, I just love the animated so much as a child. So it was so magical to bring my kids to see this new one in the theater. And this new one's great, blah, blah, blah." No, the new one makes key changes. Emma Watson and all of her usual BS anyway that she brings to any role these days altered the character of Belle and made her this little feminist icon. And now that's become Beauty and Beast for culture. That's exactly why the ideologues are spending their time remaking all of the classic Disney stuff instead of going out and looking for, legends around the world or whatever, other fairy tales that they could use that might translate well. Also, because as much as the ideologues and the quote unquote progressives like to talk about, representation and, really going out and understanding all these other cultures, they're full of it, because they're only into understanding another culture insofar as it matches up with their ideology. When it comes to another culture that doesn't quite share their push for trans identity or feminist culture or whatever, then suddenly they shut up or just ignore it. They don't want anything to do with that, that representation, So yeah, it's a good good question and good topic there. Thomas Paine says, again, different by the West versus East in storytelling. Differentiate between the West and East versus storytelling. I'm not really good at, like, I couldn't give you a comprehensive answer on that, because even when it comes to anime, I'm somewhat generally new to it, and I'm not comprehensive with my anime viewing. I do know that obviously there's differences in Western and Eastern storytelling. And maybe you're saying that that's one of the reasons why, things happen. But again, like, one of the reasons I know is that Japan doesn't abide by a lot of this nonsense that the ideologues are getting past everybody in the West and in America and Europe and whatnot. So it is interesting. I don't know. I guess, has Mario debuted in Japan yet? I'm wondering how they're going to respond to Peach and her handling and whatnot in that film. It'll be interesting. Oh, been talking a while. All right, let me see in the chat here. I just saw a chat come in. Sonograver says, ideologues only represent Americans. No other country tolerates this crap on this level we do. It exists elsewhere only because we imported it. Yeah, I think you're right. I wonder, though, I think some European countries, I don't know, you listen to a lot more international news commentaries than I do, but I would think it probably is in some of the European countries too, but I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, I think that's true. And again, that's that kind of drive. They want to remake our shape of reality. They want to present this stuff as such a norm to people, where Americans will go around saying, well, yeah, clearly this is the way it is. Clearly a man can have a baby, right? I mean, obviously, duh. Only a bigot would say that he couldn't. They just want to make that such a norm. And it's good to get a perspective that's outside of this little tiny bubble of cultural manipulation that they have, to realize, no, that's freaking crazy. It's absurd. And it's okay to say it is. Andre, got a chat there I don't want to miss. It's Deku and, talking about the Deku and Wally thing. Deku and Wally look up to their heroes and are inspired by them to become their own heroes. Yeah. So what I was saying there, yeah, I think that's, and that's a fine connection to make. I think the reason why it doesn't naturally occur to me, the Deku and Wally West thing, I totally get what you're saying, and I think that's a valid comparison. Yeah, I think the reason why that's not a natural comparison for me to make immediately is because Barry Allen is not to his universe what All Might is to his universe, right? All Might is very much a Superman type character. Now, Barry Allen's a wonderful character in The Flash and everything, but The Flash, as great as noble as Barry Allen is, he's not a symbol of hope, and he's he doesn't do the work that Superman does in that universe. He does so on a smaller scale, but not the sweeping overall symbol. So that's why it wouldn't occur to me naturally to go to that comparison automatically. But I totally get what you're saying. I mean, it's a good comparison by your criteria there, definitely. Thomas Payne again. Thank you, sir. So why is animation looked upon as a children's media in the West, especially USA in general? For me, is often more powerful form of media, less imitations. Well, you're right in that there's nothing intrinsic about animation that needs to only appeal to kids. I think that's silly, and we've got a good tradition in 20th century animators. People, they didn't get the clout or the attention that they deserve, but what's Fire and Ice? That was a great movie, the Sword and Sorcery movie with Frazetta's character designs and whatnot, the Bakshi animated films and whatnot. I think I think it just came about as children's stuff to begin with, because it was very difficult to make animation to begin with, right? Hand-drawn animation, when Walt Disney was first, or Warner Brothers, or the Merry Melodies, when they were first creating those hand-drawn cartoons, those little animations, it was such a labor-intensive process that you couldn't really, from the start there, you couldn't really involve deep stories that actually would hold an adult's attention. It had to just kind of be silly little fun stuff that a child would appeal to a child. I think that's how it got its start, and then it just kind of stuck, But like I said, Walt Disney, when he first created, his goal was to create things that were for children, yes, but could be enjoyed by adults. Now that's a very different thing than something like Ghost in the Shell, which is very much an adult animated film, but an amazing one, and the animation is beautiful. And yeah, I don't know why. I guess that's just a thing that's never been embraced by the West on the level that it has in Japan. Couldn't tell you why. It's an interesting phenomenon, though. See Impy here with us. Impious Imp. Welcome back, Impious Imp. Says homogenization is the thing they want. I'm scared we're living in the Giver prequel. Since I listened to James Lindsay. Oh, yeah, I'm not familiar with a lot of that, but I'm sure you're making a really good analogy. But yeah, homogenization is the thing they want. And it's ironic, too, because they claim, diversity. That's great. Diversity is the thing. What diversity do you like? I've been through higher education, and I teach at higher education, and I can tell you that real diversity is the last thing any college wants, or any academic ideologue wants. That's the last thing they want, is diversity. They'll take diversity of skin tone, diversity of country of origin, but absolutely no diversity whatsoever when it comes to thoughts, worldview, and values. No. We will jam you through our little mold as fast as we can and grade off anything we need to grade off of you, because you need to be having the right thoughts or else you're canceled. That is, and that sounds like a cartoonish way to put it, but it's not. That's very much what higher academia does. And they're so insufferable about it, because they're like the righteous warriors. They think this is God's work, right? Even they don't believe in a God. It's insufferable. I remember I was working at a new university, and we were going through the training, because anytime you go to a new university, they want to orient you to the way that they teach, or the way, whatever. And so that was fine. And there was a little introduction board. Me and the other people that were being trained to come into this university and teach had to introduce ourselves on the little board or whatever. And somebody in the introduction board, introduced herself and then put a link to an article about pronouns and why pronouns are very important, guys, for teachers. And you need to really take this seriously and honor your students' pronouns and make sure you tell them what your pronouns are. I'm like, what what reasonable socially well-adjusted person would think that this little forum of introduction is a place for you to preach your social values to me? That's insane. I'm Catholic, but you don't see me, in the introduction forum saying, hey guys, I'm so-and-so from this. And let me tell you guys, the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is the way to go. No, that would be insanely out of place. That's not the right thing to do there. And yet they'll do it in a heartbeat because they're more evangelical than a Billy Graham crusade. They are insufferable about it. It's didn't get me started. Andre really wants to talk about Wally West, which is fine. So do you consider Barry Allen aspirational with the retcon reverse Flash killing his mom? No, I don't. I can't really speak to that. I think that's a crappy thing to do, and I'd never liked that move. But that was New 52. If I'm, you correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm remembering correctly, that was a New 52 garbage thing that they did, and the show took its cue from that too. And I never liked that. I thought that was stupid. That was, let's try to remake Barry Allen in the image of Batman. Really dumb move, horrible move, and I think it hurt his character. But I didn't follow those stories enough at that point to tell you whether or not it took away his aspirational nature or not. I'm just not a Flash guy. You'll have to ask those questions of Fan Man. Yeah, he's the guy for Flash stuff because he really loves Wally West and he really knows that character in and out. But yeah, I just don't. I like Flash. I liked Wally West, what I've read, but I'm just not a knowledgeable person on those. Let's see. Spidey Rules says, and even when they do make a adult animation, it's more like a family sitcom type of show, like Family Guy. Yeah, that kind of Adult Swim mentality, where if adults are watching animation, it has to be kind of absurd. It has to be Robot Chicken or Aqua Teen Hunger Force if adults are going to watch animation. It has to kind of be this sort of tongue-in-cheek, like, yeah, I'm watching cartoons, but, which is silly, right? Because you can have a good adult entertainment in animation as well. See, that's a good point. Sonograver says, I wouldn't make it as a professor. My own profs asked me if that was where I was headed. Women composers, dang it, become a female beacon. No thanks. Yeah. If you're a woman or a minority identifier of any type, then you're definitely not. They're not going to abide by your wrong think. So, probably won't stay on here too much longer, guys. I'm gonna wrap this up here in a second, but just going through the chat here. Ghost Planet Max talking about, oh yeah, My Adventures of Superman. Yeah, I refuse to even pay that a lick of attention. I'm glad you brought it up. But yeah, I commented on how ridiculous that was when they first showed the image or whatever. I mean, even if they didn't show an image or say anything about it, the person behind it, it's that woman behind Lumberjanes and the She-Ra Abomination reboot. She's not somebody to be supported. She will flat out, that's her. She's not a storyteller. She's an agenda peddler. And she's looking for different pre-established franchises that she can peddle her agenda through. It's they're so pervasive. They're so pervasive. Just as an example of another place they're pervasive in, TV commercials. Well, you guys know the razor commercial that happened, or then the Hershey, kind of nonsense garbage thing. I was watching, I've been watching old reruns of Night Court while I put grades in and stuff like that, because I used to love that show. Harry Stone is just one of my favorite fictional characters. I think he's great. And so it was on Freevee, which means you have to watch an occasional commercial. And so that's the first time I watched a commercial in forever, because I do the YouTube Premium, so I don't have to watch ads and whatnot. But this commercial came on for Amazon. This commercial infuriated me so much because of how predatory it was. It's very predatory. This commercial doesn't give a crap about kids and is willing to let them suffer just to preach its stupid little ideology. Maybe you guys have seen this commercial. It's got this girl who's probably up 8th, 9th grade, something like that. Maybe a little up, somewhere around that. And she's got a little hair lip. Okay. Some poor girls have that, right? In fact, my daughter kind of has that. She's getting that as she grows into puberty. I'm going to have to, I don't know. I mean, because she's on the autistic spectrum. She doesn't bother her. She could care less. So I'll just let her keep it, whatever. But, a girl in public school, right, has this kind of little hair lip. and she's looking at the wax, and she's looking at she's like, oh, this is gonna be painful or whatever. She's in her room, and then she looks around the room and she sees like a picture of Eddie Murphy, and she sees Frida Kahlo on the wall, and then she sees a little bobblehead of Freddie Mercury, and she looks at it and she's like, yeah. And then she orders a yellow leather jacket like Freddie Mercury wore. And then instead of doing anything about her hair lip, she just goes to school with her mustache, puts on some bright red lipstick right below her mustache, wears her yellow leather jacket, and she's dancing around the halls, and she dances into the classroom. And then she sits down and just smiles at all of her classmates because, look at me, I just accepted myself. And you guys will think I'm cool for that, right? No. That poor girl, if that was a real life situation, she would be driven to straight up suicide almost. That's not how high schools or schools work. Did you freaks at Amazon even go to school when you were young? And you're telling kids, just, hey, if you're a little girl, just accept your mustache. That's totally fine. This is that absurd nonsense, like black is white and up means down kind of reality that they're trying to create around you. And it doesn't work. And they'd be fine with a child watching their garbage commercial and saying, yeah, I'm just going to do this, and getting totally picked on to this therapy for life, whatever, here, buy a yellow leather jacket and, embrace the ideology. Oh, it infuriates me. But that's the thing. Like, what does a freaking Amazon commercial got to do with ideology? Why would you need to push that crap? Just advertise the jacket if that's what you want to advertise. What is this nonsense? But they get these commercial directors, just like the people who did the stupid Razor one or the Hershey and all this kind of stuff. It's these are just the tendrils, the tentacles of the woke and the progressives. And I say progressives, you could maybe just be politically aligned with the left and call yourself a progressive, and maybe that's fine. But 90% of progressives, the way I hear it and the way it's shoved down my throat, is this ridiculous woke ideology. Don't let them tell you it's not. It absolutely is. They'll try to pretend that, no, we're not a wolf in sheep's clothing. We're just an other identifying sheep. Now, why don't you go look that way while I spend some time with your children? It's very much what they are. Anyway, got another super chat here. I need to wrap this up too because my throat is starting to wane on me. Bartimaeus 1. Hey, Professor, love your stuff. I think there's a lot of pushback to wokeness, but it's going to take a while. A lot of powerful people have staked everything on it, and their followers can't admit the evil they've helped empower. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. It's they've staked everything on it, so much so that whether it's an ideologue who really believes in it and wants that message out there, or it's just somebody who kind of invested in that idea, thinking that that was the way to go, and now they can't backpedal because they've invested too much, like some of the higher up executives or something like that. Either way, it's not going anywhere. What they will do at most, and this is what I warn people about, what they will do at most is they will throw you a bone. They will say, look, guys, we did this new show and we didn't put any woke stuff in this. See, things are getting better. So come on back to us. Support us. Throw your money at us. And you had YouTubers out there trying to push that narrative with The Mandalorian. Guys, The Mandalorian is them working for us. Make sure you support it. Tell them that this is the stuff we want. And they took all your support and said, oh, that's the stuff you want. Very good. Good job. Now sit over there and chew your little bone and be a stupid, ignorant, whatever, so we can go on and do the things we were wanting to do anyway. And, nothing changed. The Mandalorian wasn't a good stepping stone to the greater things, because right after it came the garbage Boba Fett or Kenobi and emasculating this character and that character. And now they're not, Bo-Katan is our hero. Yay, terrorists. It's just, yeah, you're absolutely right with that comment. And it's infuriating that people won't get it, but they can't not consume new content. Got to consume the new content. Can't not. Matthew Flynn for £5. This I've been going back to older stories that I missed back in the day, like the Transformers movie tie-in comics, the Bumblebee prequel comic. Well, yeah, I mean that's what I've been doing. Old stuff. Old comics, old classic movies, classic TV shows, either that I missed or that I just haven't seen in a while and want to go back and re-experience with older, more seasoned eyes or whatever. So it's yeah, that's the way, and I'm fine with that. Sound Engraver are fine with that. We started She had never watched Stargate SG-1, so I've started showing her that, and she loves it. I think she loves it so far. She says she likes it. She hasn't watched it quite long enough yet to really get hooked. The crack addict aspect of it's going to come soon, but she seems to like it. And yeah, we watch stuff like that, and that's I don't need a new relevant hashtag. I don't need to be able to go on YouTube and find 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 channels talking about the thing I want to like right now. Me liking it is enough, because I actually like it for the experience of the story and the show. I don't need a subculture around it. The subcultures are fine and they're fun. I remember it was a lot of fun back in the day going to the cons when Stargate SG-1 was still on and, talking about it to friends. That's all fine. But if I don't have that, that's not going to even remotely affect how much I appreciate and want to celebrate the show, even just myself. So, but yeah, that's very telling when people need the community experience more than they care about the show itself. So anyway, that's I gotta go. I gotta veg a little bit here. Studio Super, did you actually had a super chat a little while ago? Did I miss it or did I get to that one? I saw Studio Super here somewhere. Yeah. Studio Super said, why does it feel like the animation aimed at kids back then feels more mature than most of the animation meant for adults? Oh, good. Hey, good point. Good point. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. You see that a lot in cartoons that were made for us when we were kids versus cartoons made for kids today, but even animations for adults today. Like I don't get, like, Family Guy for me outlived its appeal, like in 2 or 3 seasons. When they first canceled it, that was enough. Because it's just absurdist commentary humor. And that's fine. Nothing wrong with absurdist commentary humor. But the reason they brought it back and they keep bulling down with it, whether it's in American Dad or Family Guy or whatever, is because that's their way of making themselves feel better about things in the world. Like Seth, what's his name, has already come out and said the reason he made American Dad is because he was upset with the way the world was going. He didn't like the Bush era, basically. And so he's got to lash out. That's not story. That's just absurdist commentary humor, which is fine, but people sit around and put that much of that into their brains. Like, that's go grow a brain and an intellect, with some other stuff some point. I don't know. You had one more super chat though. I appreciate your super chats. Let me get to that before I start wrapping up here. You also said a good way for me to avoid the bones that have been thrown lately was look at the continuity it's supporting. Exactly. Comic fans especially need to hear this concept. You're right. I don't understand. Look at what you're supposed, but they can't handle it. They can't compute. No, my support to Mandalorian, they see that I'm only watching Mandalorian, and that sends a message. They don't give a crap. The corporate and all of their investors see that Disney or Star Wars on Disney's doing well now. Great. They don't differentiate between whether it was Kenobi or Mandalorian or any of the garbage that Kathleen Kennedy wants to put on there now. They don't care. And there's no, well, hey, they turned it around, guys, with this season. No, because it's built on the same continuity. Rey's coming back, guys. All of the squeeing you want to do with Mandalorian is all in the journey to the New Order and to the Rey. There's no getting around that. Yeah, you guys get me all riled up. Where was it here? Another super chat I gotta get before I sign up. Impy said, please make a Udemy class or something. I would like to. I've been teaching so many classes, just traditional classes right now to save for the wedding and whatnot, that I don't really have time to plan something like that. But I would love to do something like that. It wouldn't be free. It would be something that people would have to register for or pay for, because it'd be a lot of work, But I would love to do something like that. Maybe someday soon. I can start kind of getting on planning that. I've looked into it a little bit before at times, and I've looked into planning it, stuff like that. It'd be a lot of fun. Yeah. And I think people would appreciate it. Even stuff like little book studies, like, let's do a study of the Iliad and look at heroic archetypes or whatever, because a lot of people, or Dante or something like that, some of those books and classics that everybody says they've read, but few people actually have read or understood. Or my own Constructing American Heroes archetype class, or my American Ghost Stories class, or whatever that I teach. Yeah, something like that would be fun. So, all right. Man, you guys won't let me leave. Here's another super chat. Not that I don't appreciate the super chats. Zarek says, I'm hoping they finally delete Star Wars so I and others have chances at playing with the world and mythos. That would upset them too. Yeah. That's why I'm like a full proponent of public domain, for Superman or whatever. Let's do this. Public domain. So yeah. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call it now so I can get a little rest and whatnot. But thank you guys so much. Very much appreciate everybody who was here, whether it was, obviously the super chats. Very much appreciate that. Goes to the wedding fund. But I very much appreciate everybody who just was, here watching. And I do see some of your comments. I know, obviously, I can't read everybody's comments, on this big stream like this. But I do appreciate you guys taking part and joining in. And I'll definitely be back next week for something. And if I can figure out something to do midweek, I will. But otherwise, I hope you guys have a great week. Hope you guys enjoy the good weather out there and stay out of the pollen. Until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.